All right, guys, let's get into this. We're going to talk about two things in this video. I'll keep it relatively short so that we can kind of move through this. This is, again, on your sort of foundational level, sort of more of a basic concept, but I really want to see you guys identify this. There are two very important things that you got to get done before we continue building any kind of product. Number one, you got to figure out where you are on the scale of 1 to 10 with whatever your niche is. So we're going to come back to what you see on my screen here in just a second, but I wanted to bring up, I asked my group recently, if you could make money in any niche, what would it be? Right? So if you got to choose your happy place, what would you do? Like, imagine you go to bed tonight, you wake up tomorrow, and you realize, I get to go make money in this niche. I don't care what it is. For me, for a long time in my career or my life, it was always, man, if I could wake up and be a baseball player, right? I loved the idea of sports. Obviously, we can't make you an athlete, but it doesn't mean you can't make money in that niche. So for me, when I realized that, like, I like playing baseball, or I did, I don't necessarily love, like the fantasy baseball side of it, right? I like football. I loved playing football, and I like fantasy, not enough to want a community about it. So this is where you get to identify, what you are. So if I was looking at fantasy football, I'd be like a 2 or a 3. I'd be like right here on the scale. So I could help ones. I don't really have a passion for it. And here's what's great about this scale. If you find that you're in, let's just make it really easy, right? If you find that if this is a 5, if you are under a 5 in something, you probably don't love it enough to want to build a community around it. And let's just be honest with ourselves. If I'm into running, if I'm into, I want a run club. If I find myself, somewhere here at the 2.5 stage of running, I don't really know what kind of running shoes I need. I don't really, I only have one pair. Where, a lot of the people that are around me, they have one for track, they have one for off-road, they have one for trails. They're really into the running side of things. They do hill runs and they do marathons. I just do, 5Ks. Get to evaluate yourself where you're at on this scale. How long have you been training? How much effort have you put in? One of the big determining factors for me is, like, how much time have I put in getting better at this skill? Right? Give you just a random example here. Let's talk about, and again, I've got a list of a billion of them right here. These are all the people in our group, what they answered. But if we just look at, let's say, taxes, for instance, and I go on the scale of 1 to 10, I'm a CPA. So instantly, I've done this as a career. I've spent like 5 years in it. Boom, I'm already at least a 5. Even if I'm not that good, I'm very experienced. Now, what's going to make me good? A couple things. And this runs with everything that we're going to do. So if you want to continuously add value, if you want your community to have value and people to stay, we need to live by this phrase: learn, do, and teach. First, you're going to learn something. So in the tax niche space, let's say you want to get known for tax strategies. And so that's going to be your community, is tax strategies for entrepreneurs, helping them save money. That is a phenomenal niche. I literally just paid $8,000 to a CPA to give me advisorship on this. That's a massive market because, again, if you get the right advice, that $8,000, I might save 30, right? So good tax community could be a phenomenal jump in here, right? Specifically for entrepreneurs, for local business owners, for restaurateurs, for real estate professionals, whatever it might be, right? You're going to learn it first. Now, if you're in the niche, I would think that you have already learned it and you've already done it, right? So if you're already a CPA and you're already killing it with tax strategy, then you've learned it and you've been doing it for a while. That's what makes you a 5, right? But what's going to make you go up that scale is when you start to teach it. I think this is massively overlooked. And again, I've talked about it in many of my articles. I've talked about it in many of the other supplemental trainings that I've done. If you want to get really good at something, try teaching it. Because what's going to happen is, and again, let's just use another example here that I had of cooking. I love cooking myself, so I could go down the rabbit hole on this one all day. Growing up, I worked in a bunch of different restaurants, okay? I was good. I worked in what we would call fast casual, so Applebee's, not really special there. You're not getting any real experience there. But then I also worked at a golf course clubhouse, and then I worked at an Italian restaurant, like a custom family-owned Italian restaurant that was more high-end. All of this taught me a ton about cooking, okay? So on my scale, I would say chefs and full-timers are 8 and above, right? Chefs and people who do this full-time, they're 8 and above. I genuinely believe I am a 7. I have done many different cooking classes. So again, when you're building your number, I want you to think about all this, right? So I have done learning. Okay, that's not just going and finding a recipe and cooking it for your family. That's not really learning. I'm talking about active learning in an environment where you learn. So great example, the things that I've done. There is a phenomenal group called Masterclass, right? I subscribe to Masterclass. It's $100. I've watched every Gordon Ramsay cooking lesson in there. Big fan. This has probably given me 30 plus hours, right? 30 hours plus just in learning, right? Then you actually have what I would call skill development. I have well over 500 hours because I worked as a cook in multiple different places. It's probably closer to more than that, but let's just use that number. 30 hours of just raw training. This is more recently. 500 hours in development. Then you have in skill development. And then you have just like home cooking, right? So let's just say regular training, right? Regular use. I cook almost all of our meals at our house as the priority. I am the cook when it comes to my house. So you look at all the things that you've actually done to build up your skill set, right? And so that's why when I look at this and I think I'm a 7, I'm not just basing it off of what I think my skill level is. Like, oh, I'm a good cook. I can make good food. Sure, a lot of people can make good food. Doesn't mean that they are a 7. I think I'm a 7 because I've actually spent time there. I've done training on it. I've then taken that training and I've applied it. But it's this little cycle right here that makes you insanely good. And run up that scale. So let's say I start right now, I'm a 1, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I love cooking. I learn about it. I take classes. I subscribe to Masterclass. There's this guy in Fort Lauderdale called Chef John Pierre, and he has every single night of the week, he has a cooking clinic. You go to it, you watch him cook the food, he gives you the recipe, and he walks you through all of these reasons that he's cooking things a certain way. Why do you cut vegetables small versus cutting them big? Increasing your knowledge of cooking so that you understand what's going on. So you've learned it. Well, that's not going to get you anywhere, but besides maybe now you're a 2. Maybe now you're a 2 because you've seen somebody else do it. Great. Then you go home and you do it, and you do it, and you do it, and you keep applying it, and eventually it tastes like his. Well, now you're a 4, right? Now you're a 4 because you've got your knife skills better. You know, you're measuring. You've got all this stuff set up. Well, then you start figuring out, okay, now I got to teach this. So let me go back to the drawing board. Let me look at all the stuff that I learned. Let me figure out my take on why did this work? What's a faster way to teach somebody? What was the thing that made it click in my mind, right? As soon as you start teaching other people, everything about your knowledge of this changes. So again, if I'm looking at this from a cooking standpoint, I look at that and I go, okay, yes, I've learned it. I've done it. I've never had to teach somebody the difference of cutting vegetables for a stew versus cutting them for like a sauce, right? Stew, the vegetable is going to be in there longer. It's going to have more time to break down, so you can cut bigger chunks. Sautéing in a pan, you probably want it small. You want it to break down a little bit faster, and you want it to hold flavor. Like, there's a lot of this stuff that goes into these things, right? So if I'm going to try to teach that, now I got to prioritize how do I do that, right? And this is something that I'm very in tune with because I do it for you guys. I learn a system. I do that system. And then I have to look at everything, why it worked, and I have to spend hours figuring out what's my curriculum to make it so that you can do this. It doesn't just come overnight and you're just like sort of somewhere, okay, let me just show you what I did, blah, blah. That's not going to help enough people. So when you start to put together your framework that you can teach somebody else, that's when your skill set gets up to here, right? So I want you right now, number one, I want you to identify where you're at on the scale of 1 to 10. Dive deep into this. I'm going to give you a rule that if you are currently under 5 at something, I'd prefer that you didn't pursue this one until you've gotten the skill sets to get you over a 5. So again, what you could do is you might learn something, you might do it, and before you teach it, maybe you go back and learn more. Totally fine, totally acceptable. Really work on getting that number up to where you feel like, okay, if there's 1 million people in this niche, I got to know more than 500,000 of them. If I know more than half of the people in this space, so if it's, let's just use another example. If it's side hustles, there's millions of people in this niche. Let's say there's 100 million people interested in side hustles. I need to know more than 50 million of them. If I know more than 50 million of them because I've learned how to do side hustles, I then did it and got some success, and now I'm going to put together a short curriculum on what I could do to help somebody. Well, now I've just built the main core of my material that I'm going to give my community members. I've created value, and I've really deepened my learning and understanding of the topic by figuring out how I'm going to teach it. One of the easiest ways that I can express this is if you look at math. We're teaching my daughter math right now in the homeschool setting. And it's one thing to know how to count by tens, right? Right now my daughter is struggling with, 89. What's 1 more than 89, right? She has a tough time. She goes right to 99. She doesn't quite get in her mind one singular digit above 89 is just 90. It goes to the new 10th, right? I know that, you know that, it's very commonplace for us to know that, but try teaching that to somebody else. You now have to go through your mind and go, how can I explain this? Because when I explain it, when I tell you, it's simple. It's 89, 1 more is 90, right? The truth is they don't know it yet. So you've got to figure out, how can I teach you? Okay, so one of the things we did with my daughter is we said, okay, let's back up. What is 1 more than 87? She's like, okay, 88. What's 1 more than 88? 89. What's 1 more than 89? 90. I got her into a little rhythm of just counting by ones, and now all of a sudden it works. So it's a game changer when you relearn something from the perspective of, I have to teach it, so how do I get it at its core? That's going to change your number, and that's going to help you elevate your game. Beautiful thing about this is if you find yourself at a 5 right now, it's going to be very easy for you to become a 6, 7, and 8 in any topic, because you know you're going to get better at it as you teach it. And then what's going to happen is, as you're trying to teach it, so like I use my math example, as I'm trying to teach this, I have to relearn it, right? So I have to relearn, how do I explain counting by tens? How do I explain, another great example is teaching them how to count with money. In America, we use quarters. So teaching my daughter the value of, a currency, but then also looking at it and saying, okay, well, a quarter on a clock is 15 minutes. A quarter in money is 25 cents. So it's learning these differences. Okay, let's go back to the drawing board. How do I explain what a quarter is? A quarter of the whole. All of that is going to make you better. Now I am better at understanding the math concept that I already do on a regular basis, but now because I'm teaching it, I understand it better. I am better at it as a whole. That puts my number up. So here's some examples. I asked my group, what, if they could make money in any niche, what would it be? And the answers were awesome. So I want to run through all of them with you. 50 plus women's health. I love that. And here's one thing that I would suggest for all of you. Please choose a niche, and all of these people did. Choose a niche that you yourself belong in. If you're a 65-year-old man and you're going to be helping people with women with 50-plus-year-old health, it's going to be an uphill battle because you're not a 50-plus-year-old woman. Sure, you're a 50-plus-year-old man. You meet some of the criteria, but choose a niche that you are in, unless you are heavily credentialed. So, going back to our 1 through 10, if you have spent decades as an OBGYN, a naturopathic OBGYN, and you've specifically worked with women for 35 years, sure, you're a 9, you're credentialed, you're a doctor, you can do it, right? That's easy. Please go down that path. But if you're not heavily credentialed, choose a space that you're in, that you yourself belong in. It's easier to identify your avatar. We'll be talking about that soon. So, 50-plus-year-old women's health, guitar. This is another amazing one. Build a community around the idea of learning the guitar. What's beautiful about guitar and learning the guitar as a concept is if you are a 5 at the guitar, you know learning guitar is going to be all under 5s. Nobody who's an 8 is trying to learn the guitar. So that's a great niche to get into if you're like sub 7, 8, right? So learning concepts, so learning your first side hustle versus making $10,000 a month. That's a different one. Hydroponics, I thought this was a great one. Healing. These are all amazing concepts. So I want you to consider our process, right? We're going to build a newsletter. That newsletter then promotes our community. Our community then helps people with this problem. And then we're going to build tools, automation, speed, and coaching around this problem. So again, healing. We might have a healing community, $20 a month. It's going to go up by $10 every single month for every 50 people. Healing from traumatic past, right? Whatever it might be individually for you. Now we're inviting a bunch of people who have had traumatic pasts into our community to help give them exercises and to create a community where they can feel, safe and communicated with and all of this. I'm not in that niche. So again, it's harder for me to talk to it, right? Because I'm not myself. I don't know what I would be looking for because that's not my space. Again, why I suggest go into a space that you belong in. God, for instance, right? There are a million ways you could do this because there's a lot of people who are in this religious space. You could just you could do God with a subcategory, right? There's a lot of people who match two of these. So let's just say God and side hustles. So maybe you have Christian faith side hustles that, you can feel good about. Right. So it's kind of built on 2 layers. I think that's amazing. It's going to build a much tighter community. Those people are going to stay. So I don't know how great it would be if we did God and guitar, but if we did God and homeschool, there's a lot of connection between those two. So now we've got these. We've got God and healing. We've got God and event planning. You can do a lot of these that are crossover spaces. You don't have to, but it's just an idea. So we've got homeschooling. This is an amazing one. So a lot of people out there have homeschooled. They've graduated kids, sent them over to Ivy League schools. You could absolutely help people homeschool their kid and teach them what you know. Dads, being a good dad, being a providing dad, being a supportive dad, being a dad in today's world, dads' side hustles. There's a zillion ways you can do this, but that's a great one. Real estate, helping get more listings, helping sell more deals, whatever it might be. Crypto investing. That's a massive network right now. If you build a nice community around the idea of crypto investing or just crypto in general, you can share weekly tips on your newsletter about cryptos to pay attention to, whatever it might be. There's a really good chance that as you grow this, you get bought out. Those are getting bought out all the time. Newsletters themselves. We had somebody answer that they wanted to build a community around building newsletters. I love that. I think that's a great idea. Event planning. You could help event planners, or you could help entrepreneurs who want to host their own events without paying event planners. Help them get better deals at hotels and understand the room blockings and all of this. Sobriety, another amazing group because people that are looking to overcome trauma, they always seek out communities because that's what we've been told to do. And we know that that's going to help us. And in fact, the medical community pushes them on finding a healthy, healing community. That could be it for you. And I think that's a phenomenal space. Math. Somebody actually said mathematics. They would like to teach math. They were a math teacher for a long period of time. So this goes back to my 1 through 10. She's probably a 7 because she's already taught it before. Remember? Learn, do, teach. She learned how to do math. She went to school for it. She then did the math, so she understands it, and she's practiced teaching it, and then she actually teaches it. This puts her up at the 7 realm. Nutrition. So here's the thing. We're not going to trust an overweight nutritionist. We're just not. I'll tell you a little side story here. My wife went to school for naturopathic medicine we were living in Boca. And her naturopathic medicine healing instructor was 395 pounds and had really bad narcolepsy and would fall asleep in the middle of like tutoring sessions and class and teaching because he was not following the message that he was teaching. That to me is unacceptable. So if you are going to go into nutrition, you better look the part. You better feel the part. You better be healthy, because I can tell you right away, if you're not, you're going to look like a 3, and nobody who's a 2 wants advice from a 3. The 2s want advice from somebody who's a little bit higher up. Practice what you preach. Learn nutrition as much as you can, as often as you can. Go watch reels. Go implement those things. Then go do what you just learned. I just learned about the carnivore diet. I'm going to do it for 30 days. I'm going to break down and write down what my experience was. I just learned about paleo. I'm going to do it for 30 days. I'm going to see what it does. Now, take what you've learned, figure out how to teach it, right? Nutrition, same deal. Parenting with a neurodiversity, within neurodiversity. Another phenomenal one, another tight-knit community, because again, you've got 2 layers. You've got parenting and you've got neurodiversity. So again, we've got maybe we've got God and leadership, right? Maybe we've got dads and God, dads and side hustles, real estate and taxes. See, there's ways that you can put these together to make an even tighter knit group, and maybe that then elevates your level, because maybe in event planning, you're only a 5, but event planning for the hydroponic space, are you bigger? Now, that individual example is going to give you a very small audience to run with, but I was just giving you an example. Again, you could, with faith, you can kind of add faith to a lot of these different things. You could do cooking, sobriety, healing, math, nutrition. I mean, there's just a ton. But then we can go with fitness. I've already talked about taxes. Fitness is another really big niche. I think all of these are 6 and 7 figure niches. I really think that any of these could be great. You can make a lot of money in this. And, for me, I think your life changes permanently and for good if you can make $40,000 a year for 12 months. So $40,000 a month, for 12 months. That's $480,000. In America, you're going to give pretty much half of that to taxes, but you just made $250,000, let's call it. At $250,000 in a year, your life changes. Your perspective on life changes. The kind of quality of life you live changes. Your travel changes. The food you eat changes. The amount of time you have to spend on yourself and your health and your relationship changes. All these niches are $40,000 a month niches. Just to let you know, at our pricing model, I just did the math on this, so let me actually bring this up. I want to show you guys. At our pricing model, I had ChatGPT break down how much to make $50,000 a month, because that to me is the number that gets me interested in a business. If I can't figure out how to reverse engineer $50,000 a month and pretty quickly, I'm not really going to entertain the idea of going into that business. Good news for you guys. I think that this is very possible at $50,000 a month. And I want to break down exactly what that looks like. So if we have a $20 a month membership that increases by $10 a month every 50 members, and we want to figure out how to get to 50,000, you can see here, here's our thresholds at each one of the, here's our earnings at each one of the thresholds. So 50, 100, 150, 200, at 250 members, we're making 3,000, 2,500, so that's 5,500, 7,500, 9,000, we're making 10,000. 250 members, we're making 10,000 a month. So right out the gate, bang. And the real number on this, I believe, was 271 or something. But I want 50,000 a month. Without any upsells, without selling any other products, without doing anything else, we need, and this is the number that every single one of you guys should be paying attention to, 650 members. If we can get to 650 members, we will make $50,000 a month with our $20 a month that increases 10. So I think 650 is a very reasonable number, especially in any of these niches. There are more than 650 dads who want to start a side hustle. There are more than 650 people who are faith-based that want faith-based cooking recipes that are more holistic and natural. There are more than 600 parents that need help with parenting in the neurodiversity space. More than 650 people who want to do newsletters, then want to invest in crypto with 50 plus health issues, that want to learn the guitar. All of these niches are primed for what we want to do. And that is 50, and it deserves to be highlighted, 50,000 a month just from that with no upsells. To me, that is a very exciting idea that we can get 650 people in and build that number. What's great is we've got this built-in cascade as we build, and we want to be able to utilize that. So every 50 members, when we get to 40, when we get to 90, when we get to 140, that's going to help push those numbers up because that's going to add that instant scarcity. All right. So now the last topic is I wanted to talk to you guys about getting an idea for who your avatar is going to be. I don't want to spend too much time on this. I am attaching an article that I really want you guys to read. Whenever possible, I try to give you guys a visual training versus just a video training because I think it's going to be easier for you to come back to. That's why I like giving you guys worksheets and articles. Our Paid Creators newsletter has a phenomenal 1,800-word article on figuring out who your avatar is. An avatar just stands for if I had to imagine somebody who's going to buy my stuff, what do they look like? Who are they? This is a massively overlooked step in the process. So the 6-step process that we use here at Paid Creators is, number one, figure out what you're going to sell. You already know what you're going to sell because we're telling you you're going to sell a community based in a niche that you love that provides them some information and helps them. You already know what you're going to sell. Who are you going to sell to is step 2. Creating the automated pitch process, which is what's going to allow you to do this digital marketing thing with emails and pages and whatnot, that comes next. That's 3rd step. 4th step is getting your first 50 members. 5th step is setting yourself up to make more money. And the 6th step is scaling with Facebook ads. Now you're buying your time back. This is when you get to stage 6 and you actually do it well, that's when I host a conference in Kauai and you shut down everything and you come because you're making so much money that you don't have to worry about your time. You can actually go and enjoy it. And then we get to go and do our excursions. Let me know if you like the idea of that because I love doing events in Kauai. We did one last year and it was one of the best times. All right. Anyways, figuring out your avatar. Let's figure out, again, another reason that I love the idea of you going into a niche that you actually belong in. What's their age? What's their gender? What kind of habits do they have? Right? So if I'm in pickleball, what's the average age of the pickleball person I want to help? What's their gender? Is it male or female? It can be both. It doesn't have to be just one, but we kind of want to ideate on one. What challenges are they facing? Who do they listen to? So let's just go back here real quick. Let's look at dads who are trying to start side hustles. This is a very common niche because it's sort of the niche that we're in. You might know about it. Dads, they're probably 42. I'd say that's a good space, 42. Gender, obviously male. Habits, they work full time, coach on the weekends. Maybe they're into golf. We start to get into some of that. What challenges are they facing? They can't make money. They don't have a whole lot of time, right? Time is definitely a big challenge. They don't have the knowledge. Who do they listen to? Maybe they listen to Tony Robbins. Maybe they listen to Russell Brunson. Maybe they listen to, Marie Forleo. Like there's all these different people. Where do they spend their money? Dick's Sporting Goods. But in this niche, they're probably buying Tony Robbins. They're going to his events. Maybe there's a specific dad-focused person out there that I can also look into, and they're spending their money with him. And then we want to outline what their problems are and what their objections. What do they think that's holding them back? Let's write some of those out. And again, this article that I suggest that you guys all read at this point, it's going to help you get way more detailed on this. And this is just like a rough outline of what it is. And then I love this last little piece, and I don't mention it enough, but I want you to also think about what does that person's future look like without your solution? So let's say I have a community that helps dads build a side hustle. I want to be able to visualize for them what their future is going to look like if they can't get a side hustle to actually pay off, because I can talk about that in my marketing. Look, if you're frustrated, and again, I talk about this stuff all the time, but you don't want another, years go by very quickly. You don't want another year to go by with you trying 5 different things. What you need is something that's going to work right now so that in 6 months, you actually have that extra income coming in so that you can actually use that so that when the emergency does come up, when the birthday does happen, when the wife wants to take a trip, when you want to go to that special dinner, you're not having to think about it. You're exhausted mentally as a dad. Trust me, I get it. You need to put in the work now, which is going to be the hardest part. Put in the work now so that you can enjoy the spoils later. In 6 months, you will thank yourself for taking action now instead of saying, well, I don't know. Trust me, Nobody knows before they take action. No business has ever been guaranteed to succeed before it starts. You have to be willing to try it. Thankfully, you're in my community. It's going to help you, right? So I can actually pin them against their future self, but I need to know what that future self looks like. So again, we're looking at, if I go with this one, I think this is a great one, 50 plus women's health. I could pinpoint all day what their future looks like without my healing group solution, right? It ain't good. You're going to be going through menopause and it's going to do this and you're going to have this problem and you're going to feel brain fog and you're going to feel agitated and irritated and all this, whatever else it is. I've listened to a few podcasts on this topic, so I do know that it's a big discussion. It's also one that's probably under discussed amongst the people in that space. So I do think that it's a massive niche. So figure out what their future looks like without your solution. So that's what I want you guys to do in this video is I want you to figure out where you're at on your scale of 1 to 10. And I also want you to figure out, or at least note, if you're a 5, you're going to be helping 4 and unders. Okay. Just keep that in mind and then identify what makes a 1, what makes a 2, what makes a 3, and what makes a 4. And how does a 1 become a 3, a 2, a 3, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 4, a 5. And as I'm going, I'd like to monthly evaluate, am I getting any better? If I don't feel like I'm getting any better, my tip has always been, if I don't feel like I'm getting any better, it's because I'm spending too much time teaching and not enough time learning and doing. So for me, it's very easy when you start to sell leverage, which everything that we have right here is leverage. Everything we're doing is leverage. If you are a phenomenal cook, if you're a phenomenal cook, you're teaching other people how to cook. That is leverage on the idea that I have this information. I'm leveraging it to get you to pay me for it, right? Leverage. Well, even the best cooks in the world eventually need to go back and learn a new technique. They need to then do it, and that gives you more to teach. That's going to increase your number. So we want to keep all that in mind. After you figured out what your number is and who you can help and what identifies those people, I then want you to go through and look at creating your avatar. I want you to have a clear picture of who your avatar is. Please take the time to go through that article. You can listen to it as well. If you don't want to, on the page, you'll be able to click listen to the article if you don't have time. But 100% go through that. Take the time, even if it's a couple of hours, to go through and identify who your avatar is. One note on the avatar, be willing to pivot. You might get it wrong the first time, but when we start going out and we start identifying who our avatar is, we'll start reaching out to those people. If nobody buys our stuff or if not enough people buy our stuff, if they're not interested, we've chosen the wrong avatar. Go back to the drawing board and this is where we get to fix it. So that's what's kind of cool. If we can identify the right avatar, the rest of the marketing becomes very easy. So that's it for this video. Make sure you guys take these steps. We'll see you in the next one.